Welcome to Reflections, a program where we discuss values and virtues for the transformation of the individual and the society in general. I am Father George Ehusani, and I have with me in the studio Andy Odeh. Andy, you're welcome.
Thank you, Father George.
Andy Odeh recently retired from Nigeria LNG as General Manager External Relations. General Manager External Relations. I'm not familiar with external relations. I'm familiar with corporate affairs, but you know, it is corporate practitioners that you use for external relations.
Yes.
Good. So corporate practitioner, and then just recently retired. And congratulations for how many years did you spend in LNG?
26 years.
26 years.
Yes.
26 years. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, but Andy is now is now a director. Corporate affairs. we don't have too much external relations, but we have corporate affairs with Terra. So you're welcome.
Thank you, Father.
Now, with your experience, I want us to discuss CNG. When Tinubu regime came, he announced that subsidy is gone, and we are told that subsidy is gone, so we knew that the price of petrol is going to keep rising. Then we were told that to be consoled that there will be CNG buses, CNG cars, and that CNG will be available. People should convert their cars to CNG. 1.5 years on, I don't know how many cars have been converted to CNG. I don't know how many cars are on our roads that are running on CNG. The impression I have is that the pressure on petrol is still so heavy, and I am not seeing many buses running on our roads that are CNG buses. In fact, I left my house for the studio today and traveled some 40 kilometers. I never saw one bus on the road. I'm not talking about whether it is government bus or private bus. Any bus that can take 20, 30, 40 people, I never saw one on the road. And I traveled a distance of about 40 kilometers. So what's going on? I mean, what do you know about this CNG vehicles? How commonplace are they so far in Nigeria? How equipped are we? Your company is supposed to supply, I mean, the company you work for is supposed to supply us with gas to power our vehicles and buses all over the place. Is that company equipped? Do you have all that gas available for domestic consumption? Because from what I got to know, I mean, a lot of the gas that we produce is exported. But I also know that we burn a lot of gas, we flare a lot of gas. So are the companies, your company and other companies, are they equipped to domesticate this gas that we have been flaring, so that we now use it to power our homes and power our vehicles? What's going on?
Okay. Thank you for that. So I'll approach it in two parts. The first part, I am no more the General Manager External Relations.
I say retired.
Yeah, retired. So there's a question, but I will just answer for that for my former company.
Yes.
NLNG was set up. You talked about we have a lot of gas being flared. The reason why NLNG was set up in the first place was to help reduce the gas that is being flared, monetize it, and that's why Nigeria LNG was set up. So increasingly, I mean, with NLNG, gas flaring has reduced by less than 20%.
You mean so we are still going to continue to flare some gas?
Well, so because oil production is going on, there will be minimal flare, but there's a great reduction because of Nigeria LNG. So that's one, purely for export. However, in 2022, early 2022, the board of LNG directed that every volume of cooking gas, domestic LPG or LPG, should be put into the domestic market. So credit to the company. Today, 40% of the cooking gas in Nigeria, 40% of it, about 40% of it is from Nigeria LNG. So credit to Nigeria LNG.
Do we still import any cooking gas?
Yes, we do. So the 100%, of the 100%, about 60% is imported into Nigeria.
So with gas still available for flaring, why are we importing gas?
Well, because the last 30 years or so, there hasn't been so much investment in infrastructure to gather gas where you have exclusive gas reserves. Because the gas that is flared is when you find gas close to oil, associated with oil, and that is why what LNG, most of the gas LNG is using for production is gas that is found associated with oil. So when you find gas, when you're prospecting for oil, you can find gas. And the options you have are: one, you reinject it, which is expensive. Two, you gather it to be processed like Nigeria LNG does, or you flare. So over the years,
since 1959, we have been flaring.
So, but that is reducing gradually. Like I said, with NLNG alone, reduced by less than 20%, about 20% reduction. Now, the other thing about gas is that Nigeria actually has more gas than oil.
Yes,
more
I got
proven
to know
reserve
that,
than
yes.
oil. So, to make it happen, there must be investment in exclusively gas production. So there are gas wells, or there are gas reserves that organizations or companies can eventually begin to prospect, and, well, like they say, bring out the gas and use it for something else.
Is it that only people are having what do you call it, license for crude oil, but then is it that people are not having license for gas?
Well, so it's really expensive. To do that, you need very big organizations with the backbone to be able to do that. But it is happening. And the reason why you see major oil companies also doing gas as well, because some have taken final investment decisions to produce gas. I mean, I wish I could speak for all of them, but if you recall, early this year, the federal government, there was 3 presidential orders to enable country catalyze the use of gas for industrialization, for transportation. And by the way, one thing natural gas does, if you exploit it, or if you exploit and you bring it out, and I speak like a common man, a layman now, if you begin to produce it, one, for it to have effect, it's on industry, agriculture, and of course transportation. And that leads me to the second part of your question. Yes, with 200 million people, if you look at Europe and even America, for you to really see the benefits of CNG, it's not just for the cars you and I. Father George, I know you drive a fairly car that is economic, but it's expensive. I can imagine how much it costs you to fill your tank. With CNG in your car, it probably will cost you half of that. But that's just you. And because, okay, you drive into town every day, Father Richard, 2 of you. But for us to really feel the effect is buses and trucks. That's when you really begin to feel the effect of reducing the cost of fueling vehicles for transportation. And I think there are a few things that we need to consider. It costs a lot of money. For the car assembly plants in Nigeria, very few of them are producing cars that we can drive. Very few of them are producing trucks. So again, that is a captive area where you say, well, if they are manufacturing or producing, they are fitted from the plant to consume
Gas.
either CNG or they are hybrid. But where we are now, if you look at the average, some statistics don't know how true it is. On the average car in Nigeria on our roads is about between 10 to 20 years. So if I own a car that is 20 years old and I'm managing to keep it running, what will it cost for me to convert? And when I convert,
and does it make sense? If I have a 15, my car is what? My car is about 12-year-old car, and just benefits and cost and benefits, whatever is it? Does it make sense for me to go and spend 1 million naira to convert a car that is 12, 15 years old?
So, but George, even if you do that, that's just you. What effect, if you look at the multiplier effect, if you have a truck, if you have a bus that is running on CNG, 3 things will happen. One, it will be cheaper for the transporter to run the vehicle. He probably, I will not say reduce the cost of transportation, the fare you pay, excuse me, but you probably have astronomical cost in fares because it's cheaper than petrol or diesel. Now, that we're not having. But if you go back to some of the things that need to be quickly addressed, one is cost of conversion. In the entire value chain, we do not produce anything that you could use to convert in Nigeria, so it will still be imported. It will be subject to foreign exchange. Well, I know that even that the federal government has indicated, or there's some tax holiday if you're bringing in parts for conversion. But the thing is, how many of such conversion centers
What
do
it
we have,
means
and
is
what
that
will it cost?
we were really not ready. we were really not ready for proliferation of CNG vehicles, CNG buses and trucks when we announced it. We're not ready for it. I mean, I live in a part of town where on any given day, there may be 20, 30 Dangote trucks queuing up for CNG, for gas. And sometimes they are there for 3, 4, 5 days waiting to fill their tanks. And I feel so sad because it's such a waste to have trucks, loaded trucks, maybe heading from Abuja to Kano, and they need to stop here to fill their tank. And they are there for 1 week. And I'm saying, oh no, there's something wrong about planning here. There's something wrong about the processes, you know. And then I was actually preparing to change my car to CNG to convert. But when I saw how long cars are spending at the station, and I asked how many of these CNG stations to fill the tank are in Abuja, I'm told it's about 2. And I'm saying 2, and we have millions of cars here. So how long do these days? They say it takes a long time for each car to fill. Wow. So we're not yet ready. What can be done? What do you think can be done so that within 1 year we can have everything in place?
Okay. I think one is incentivization. A lot more businesses should be incentivized to get into setting up conversion centers and even stations. So
that it doesn't just have to be these petrol stations that are already existing.
Yeah. So that's one. I know that NNPC is doing a lot. They are investing a lot, and most of the centers where either conversion or not conversion, where you have CNG that you can fill up, owned by NNPC, which is fantastic. But we need to go further down. So that's one. Secondly, if we just mirror what's happening in the eastern part of Nigeria, where there's a lot of parts being put together in Nnewi and all of that, something is saying, look, there's an opportunity to, enable that part of the industry to begin to either produce little kits. Don't know the details, but I think it is possible. Then thirdly, I think there's a lot more orientation that needs to be done. Yes, you're bringing in cars. People will still bring in cars that are not CNG, and the reason is obvious. One of the reasons, one you gave, you bring it, what do you do? But I want to shift a bit to another really huge cost center. It will be helpful if every vehicle today that is either bought or leased by government at the federal level, even if you don't go all the way to the state,
it's at least hybrid.
It's hybrid or exclusively CNG. Again, it just sends a message to everyone, because if that happens, then automatically you also need to have centers where those vehicles can fill up. So I think 2 things: one, incentivization; 2, wherever you have industries that are readily available. So they're already a captive area in eastern part of Nigeria, like you said, Nnewi. Let them collaborate and find a way to begin to retrofit kits that we can use. But finally, I think for me is purely about mass transportation, because the truth is, how many hours do we drive? Those who own private cars, probably 2-3 stops a day. But for commercial vehicles, they go a very long distance.
Well, I think there is something wrong with the conduct of leadership in this country, because it is so painful for me that a city that is 47 years old, Abuja, that till today we don't have mass transit. Now, and we went, you see, when Abuja was being set up, the Aguda panel visited over 50 different cities. to prepare for Abuja. Over 50 cities. And many of those cities, you have light rail, monorail, mass underground rail, all over the place. I mean, you can, if you think about when Germany had rail system, UK had rail system, then you went to study those cities and then you set up a city and there was no rail. I'm told that provision was made as to the train station will be here, rail will run here, but they have built up the city and there's no rail. I mean, and I'm saying to myself, what kind of planning is this? Because, okay, everybody, most of the people who drive into town, most of the people, anybody who earns less than 200,000 naira cannot live in Abuja city. That's standard. They live in Suleja, they live in, they live in Wawalada, they live whatever. Then they live in Kubwa, then they live in Nyanya, they live in Maraba. So by 3:30, 4 p.m., half of Abuja is heading outside. And by 7 a.m., between 7 and 10 a.m., half of Abuja is coming into town. And they are all coming in small cars. 95% of people who need to come to town are coming to town either in small taxis or in their own cars or in keke or in motorcycles. And you are saying to yourself, what's going on here? What's going on here? I really think that what we are discussing is actually failure of leadership, really.
Yeah, but there's an opportunity. There's still opportunity to correct it. If you look at for mass transportation, it's still possible to say, look, well, Abuja is built up, yes, but if you drive through, it is still a possibility to do light rail, even if you're not going all through to the city. If you look at from Yanya through the Apo area,
Karishi Road.
Karishi, that road, the road has not even been completed. But the thing is, you can actually do light rail to move people to a certain point. And from there, but the next thing is, so what happens after that? Well, it is possible to still do light rail in Abuja. It is still possible to, within the city, design, I think, for a city that is 40 years old, if you look at the basic things, transportation, security, power, water, you've said something that is fundamental. People rush in the morning, people rush out in the evening. The time they waste is a lot. But it's still possible to redesign mass transit exclusively for Abuja. You can bring in buses, well, maybe this time CNG buses or hybrid buses that will move people in and out. Again, it's all about planning, it's all about long term, and it has to be sustainable. Whether it's going to be done by FCT or FCDA or done by the federal government or by private individuals, but there has to be something that is being handed over to an authority to say, look, this is the blueprint for urban or mass transportation in and around Abuja. Otherwise, we will, as the city continues to grow and the adjoining villages and towns begin to be overpopulated.
For what you are saying, there has to be multi-generational planning.
Yes.
It cannot be just preparing for the next election and then do projects that will make me win the next election. It has to be the next generation, 25 years' time, 30 years' time. So it is only when you have the kind of leaders that can have that kind of vision of the next generation. They say, leaders plan for the next generation. Politicians plan for the next election. So what we need are leaders, not politicians that are just planning for the next election. Otherwise, this what you are saying will not happen. Let's get back to the whole issue of LNG. Why are you guys exporting, or where your company, where you used to be, exporting gas when we need so much gas here? Because you just told me that we are still importing 60% of the cooking gas we need in Nigeria. Okay. So why are we importing cooking gas? Because at the end of the day, same story as NNPC now, that we are importing so much fuel that we need in this country, whereas we are a petroleum producing company. So we are a gas producing company and we have a lot of gas deposits, but then we are importing the gas we need.
Yeah, Father George. So, like I said, your business objective for LNG was very clear.
Reduce
gas is being flared, monetize the gas that was being wasted. And to monetize it, you need cash. And if you need cash, foreign exchange. So that was what the company was set up to do. In 2007, it was President Obasanjo's regime that said, you know what, you need to do something about scarcity of cooking gas in Nigeria. And NLNG, on his own, decided to say, okay, fine, we will do that. Which sounded like doing CSR, because if you're set up to export, purely to export, and the reason why you produce LNG at all.
No, to say you monetize the gas that we are flaring, does
Yes.
it mean does it immediately mean export? Monetize, don't we pay for the gas we use in this country?
By the way, Nigeria LNG, again, Father, you're putting me in a tight spot. Nigeria LNG buys the gas. It buys the gas from people who find gas in that situation. So the Nigeria LNG buys the gas to liquefy. So the reason why you even liquefy it is because it makes it easier for you to transport it.
To contain it. And
Yes. So if you put LNG in this, say if this is a ball, it's 600 times. If you compress, if you reduce, if you liquefy it, it reduces the gas by 600%. So to do that so that you can export it. So either you send it by pipeline or you send it by ships. So what LNG is doing is, Nigeria LNG is doing is transporting it by ship out to buyers in Europe, America, and the rest of the world, making a lot of money for Nigeria. So objective is very clear. I'm sure there was a time when President Buhari came into power. You must have heard about the LNG bailout. It was so it's good business. It's good for the country. It's good for Nigeria. I mean, it's a model that everybody wants to emulate. But the thing is, beyond that, Nigeria LNG cannot satisfy the total demand,
the domestic
demand. So 40%, it was less than 40% in 2022. They started ensuring that every molecule of LPG is delivered into Nigeria. So they are doing that already. And the only way that can increase is if you build more facilities, like they are building the Train 7.
By the way, even right now, to bring gas to Abuja or any other place in the country, it's still by trucks, isn't it?
Yes.
So we don't have pipes running around the country to transport this gas, do we?
Okay. That's an area where I don't play, or I didn't play, but for you to bring it here, you need to transport them by trucks. There's a company in Rivers State, Greenville. Greenville is doing something really interesting. What they are doing is they're producing LNG, but they're producing LNG and they're taking LNG in that in that liquefied state to parts of the country. So when they regasify it, the volume is huge rather than transporting just gas like that. So Greenville is doing it, but that's where we are.
So right now it is mostly by transportation.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So they destroy our roads. they are the trailers. They are part of the trailers that destroy our roads, and so on and so forth. Good. So as we try to end this program, what do you foresee in the next 5 years with regards to liquefied natural gas and CNG? Recently, we read that Malaysia decided to put an end to CNG vehicles. I don't know if you read it.
Yes.
Now, what does that indicate? Is it that this thing is not very safe? Why would they do that? I mean, why this is supposed to be a cheaper alternative? So why would they put an end to? What do you understand that they are doing?
Well, I mean, they've run it for so many years. For them, they're looking at other options. We have abundant gas in Nigeria. We have abundant gas in Nigeria, and you use what you have to move on. Are
there safety issues? Because we already, in this country, we already have a few cases of vehicles exploding and so on and so forth. Are there safety concerns? Because you see, when Malaysia did this, some interpretation is that it is about safety. It's like cars of a certain number of years. It is not safe to run on CNG.
Yep.
That's the kind of thing I read. So the cars we have here, many people are riding 20-year-old cars, 50-year-old cars in this country. and people are converting some of those cars, are there safety concerns?
Yeah, so I mean the midstream part of oil and gas production, which is the Nigerian midstream downstream petroleum, NMDPRA, the authority, they have very strict regulations. They will inspect, certify, approve before you do whatever you need to do, either in terms of conversion. Even the conversion centers are going to be really checked, certified. So that is clear. I don't think it's so much of whether cars will explode. There are so many other reasons why cars will explode, whether petrol, diesel, or whatever. I don't think we should worry too much about the safety, because there'll be all kinds of campaign that will go on to educate people, because the long-term benefit is better. I mean, we look at long-term benefits, cheaper. I mean, with CNG, lasts longer, and use your money for something else. So first of all, safety is something that is highly considered in oil and gas. We shouldn't have any fears about it. It's only when individuals begin to cut corners, and that's where there will be concern. Are we having substandard kits? It's probably too early in the day to tell. If we want to probably say in the next 5 years, how many vehicles that got converted from petrol to CNG are still on the roads, depending on the age of the vehicle, availability of CNG, and of course, capacity to continue to operate and maintain those facilities. Fast forward 5 years from now, I think there will be slight increase, but I think it's going to just be marginal, because the uptake, we need a lot more people to invest. I think it's about time we focus more on the private sector doing it than government doing it. And for private sector to do it, there has to be, I think, incentive needs to be considered.
As we say this, where does solar come in? I mean, thinking about sub-Saharan Africa with the abundant resources we have in terms of sun and solar and so on and so forth, as we discuss all this thing about power and energy, where does solar come in? From 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., if I have a solar solar powered car, I can drive, because there is sun. Unlike if you are living in Finland or in Norway, some of those places where you can have darkness for 18 hours. But in this country, you have abundant sun. And this is one area that we are not exploiting at all, or next to. I mean, maybe not yet 2-3%.
Solar is fantastic example of off-grid power. And I think where I see a lot happening now in the next 5 years, individual homes, because I don't know, your house is big, so you have lots of light points and all of that. With your solar panel, it drives down your cost of electricity considerably. It's like if you have the opportunity of having solar panel on your car, I'm sure you will do that. Yeah. So I see a lot more of such, people taking advantage of solar for homes. If you drive around, 20 years ago and drive around today, people are installing solar panels in their homes.
All over the place, yes.
So it's the way to go, especially with the cost of electricity to every home today. So long term, that's the way to go. Whether on vehicles is going to be, I don't really think so, because quite frankly, how far will it take you? Because you still need, with the solar panel, you still need battery, and storage is actually the issue. So even for electric cars, the battery is the soul, because if you charge, it goes to the battery. So for homes, as the technology around storage increases, gets better, long term, we'll begin to enjoy a lot more longer hours on the solar panels we have. But yes, you've said it, from River Niger, River Benue all the way up, there's abundant sunshine for us to take in and do that. And I really think that there are such opportunities existing for institutions, and it begins to help you determine how you even design your home. If you go typically, we have a lot of light bulbs in our houses, when houses were designed those days. Today, people are doing less of that, because for every light you switch on, it's power that you're consuming. Yeah. But whether it's going to translate into the same thing for land transportation, I don't think so. But for homes, it is actually the way to go. How many hours do we spend at home? A family of 4 or 5. Children are in school, they come back, maybe in the morning you iron clothes, you warm food, you watch TV, your children do their assignments. Solar is the way to go because it's becoming
well, I mean,
less affordable
as you
for us
know, Luke's Terra actually started in 2011 here. We actually started with solar. It has been solar all the while. I mean, every time you come here, we're powered by solar. This studio is powered by solar.
Yep.
So we set out to be an example and to model using maximum use of solar. However, it is expensive. The capital outlay is a lot. I mean, there's very little or no maintenance, but the capital outlay is enormous. I mean, whenever we change our batteries like every 8 years, but because of the batteries are not produced in this country,
Nope.
because of what has become nearly worthless in terms of naira, what cost Luke's Terra 15 million in 2011 is costing 150 million today.
Whoa.
That's the situation, and it is so too for any. Okay, people are having 1, 2, 3, 4 panels and so on and so forth to power their homes. But when you have the kind of panels we have, when you have 50, 60, 70 panels, 100 panels to panel an establishment like this, then the batteries that hold the power, that's a lot of money. And then till today, there is no government incentive. Like, I mean, they are still paying so much for import duty for batteries. I mean, a society that wants to encourage alternative power, green energy, safer energy, there should be some incentive for people who go into this area. But those who supply us these things complain about the duty they have to pay.
Yeah. So that's another low-hanging fruit or great opportunity for as you move. I know you move from CNG to solar. Yeah, so it's an area where, quite frankly, if it's affordable, I mean, if I can access it, I would say the average Nigerian, but generally, it's an area where a lot more people can begin to, on their own, produce their own power. In some countries, it's gotten to a point where people are producing enough power from solar
feeding the national grid.
Feeding the grid because they have excess. Why one is not saying that's going to happen immediately, but on the long term, I think that's one area where I think it's the current emir of Kano that said that when policy should be done with people in mind. Policy should be done with people in mind, not with government in mind. So when the policy is in place to say, look, you know what, we have XY Nigerians that cannot afford power today, or we have XY Nigerians that are parking their cars or trekking or are looking, you won't even, if you want to sell your car today, you won't even find anybody who wants to buy your car.
Yeah.
So if something is happening to that segment of the economy, of the population, then what are the policies that would ensure long term?
On this note, we'll be bringing this program to an end. I've been speaking to Andy Odeh, former general manager, external relations, NLNG, Nigerian
Nigeria LNG.
Nigerian LNG.
Yes.
Thank you very much.